Mm-hmm. You did. Yeah.
I use the one in the office all the time.
Supposed to be close to 70, I think, on Saturday. That's good. We'll welcome the warmer temperatures, that's for sure.
Hey, Rick, I tried to send the, one of the bidders wanted to listen in on Zoom, Logan or Rounds Construction, and I sent it to him in the calendar app. So I wonder if he knows what he's looking, because he hasn't come on yet.
You ready to go?
Yeah.
Are you waiting for something?
All right. Good morning, everyone. It is 9 a.m. It's Tuesday, May 12th, our regular weekly meeting of the Codington County Board of Commissioners. We'll start out today with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Cindy, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would just point out that Commissioner Johnson is joining us via teleconference this morning, so I will just ask him for, when we vote, for a roll call vote. Our public comment, if individuals would like to address the Board of Commissioners during the open part of our meeting, if they would call in to 882-6297. And our new number is 882-6248, and then we will call them back during that portion of our meeting. We are also streaming live on YouTube, just for individuals if they would like to watch us live, and they can go back and watch the taped ones as well. Item number 3, and I guess most of us probably have our cell phones silenced, so if not, please check that. Item number 3, conflict of interest. Is there any items on the agenda that the commissioners have a conflict with?
Oh,
No.
nope.
All right, very good. Item number 4, action to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Got a
Second.
motion by Van Duzen, second by Waterman. Is there any additions to that anyone has? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item number 5, action to approve the minutes of May 5, 2020. I believe there was a correction made. Is that right, Cindy?
I did correct
the ones-
there were some welfare numbers that I took off of the report that I either looked at wrong, or I'm not sure what the problem was, to tell you the truth, but
Okay,
those have been changed to reflect the correct amounts.
all right. So I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Gable,
Second.
Second.
second by Van Duzen. Any other discussion or additions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Monthly reports. We'll start out with the auditor.
Basically, our office has been working election nonstop since we got our ballots on approximately the 27th of April, 20th or 27th. Anyway, to date, we have had 2,684 requests for mail-out ballots. 1,373 have been returned. When I look at 2016, we had a total of 973 requests for absentee, and most of those were in person in the auditor's office. They were not mail out, so they were much easier to handle. Total number of ballots cast in the 2016 primary were 3,800. So we're still getting, the numbers have dropped from the first couple of weeks. I don't know. I hope people are not waiting to the last minute to send in that absentee ballot request and expect to get a ballot mailed to them and then they mail it back to us. Because we have to have that ballot in the office on the day of the election. Does not matter if it's postmarked and comes the next day, it will not be counted. It's got to be in the office to be counted for this election. We're still working on getting precinct workers. We've had a number of our longtime workers have declined to work this time, so we are pulling in some new people who have volunteered, but we're still short in 3 of my rural precincts. I need a Republican in Dexter Township. I need a Republican in Fuller Township and the town of Florence. And I need a Democrat either from Kempeska Township or Richland Township. Those are a combined precinct. And then we will begin working on, I've yet to determine how many people I'm going to need for my absentee processing boards. It's going to depend on the number of ballots that we have to process. Normally for a primary, I would just use 1 board, where in a general election, I use four panels of ladies. So I'm just kind of waiting to see what kind of numbers are still coming in. Other than that, I have sent out the 2021 budget worksheets to all the office heads, the departments, the elected officials to prepare and get back to me. I've asked to have those back to me by May 31st. That's another thing that's kind of gotten neglected during this election process. Normally I was able to give everybody a worksheet to show what their employees are getting, but there's no way I had time to do that this year. So they're working through it at this time. So I think that's about it. It's just elections. Oh, and the logistics that are coming up. We'll be figuring out how to get gloves, masks, hand sanitizer available at each precinct, in addition to the normal supplies that we normally have to send out. So I'm looking at hiring some extra people to work at the extension building to kind of try and guide people to in and out as quickly as possible. Ideally, we'd like them to have them use 1 door as an entrance and another door as an exit, so that we're not passing in that narrow hallway where they normally come in at. So just a few things that are still being worked out.
Are we still getting quite a few back with the insufficient post?
Yes, we are, but I mean, it's better, I think, than it was originally, but we're still spending anywhere from $25 to $50, depending on how many ballots there are in postage due.
And how
But
many?
a lot of people did see the PSAs, either hear it on the radio or in the newspaper. And a lot of them have started putting the correct postage on, but it's misleading because the ballot itself is so lightweight, but it's the oversized part that that people just don't realize you have to put extra postage on.
Madam Chair, just,
Yes.
what's the deadline again for the absentee applications? Is May?
Absentee applications, the deadline to apply is at 5 p.m. on Monday, June 1st.
Okay.
The only people that can vote absentee on election day would be somebody who has developed an illness, can't leave the house, ended up in the hospital or something. And then they would have to arrange for what we call a messenger to run their ballot. There's a lot of paperwork involved, and you can only do that up until 3 p.m. on election day.
Yeah.
There are no requests.
So that deadline doesn't allow for mailing time. But basically, so if the mailing, if the deadline for the application for an absentee ballot is June 1st.
If we get an application on June 1st, we are required to mail a ballot out
But if they mail
I
it
know.
on June 1st and it doesn't get here by June 3rd, then they're out.
June 2nd.
June 2nd.
Or they
Second.
could,
That's
yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to
they
be
could
in
drop it off
election.
at the drop box, so
Yeah.
if they don't go through
But-
the mail process.
Or you can go
They
to the
probably won't get it
polls
in
and
time.
vote.
Or you
too.
can go to the polls and vote.
Yeah.
I'm expecting a very light turnout at the polls.
Mhm.
And, just kind of plan your day that day. Don't everybody show up at 7 a.m. Kind of think about it when it might be later times, like the middle of the morning, the middle of the afternoon. I would not go right away at 7 a.m. I would not go over the noon hour, and I would not come in at 5 o'clock. Those are going to be heavy traffic times.
10:30.
And that's all I've got,
That's
I
it.
guess.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Myron, did you have anything you wanted to ask?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Shauna, Director of Equalization. Morning, Shauna.
Morning, Sean.
And
Morning,
Shauna,
Shauna.
Shauna has loaned her employees to me quite a bit to help sort things out
Let's move that.
with election stuff.
Move it over. Perfect.
Yes, my appraisers, we're gonna talk about that. I might as well just start with that. Our summer reappraisal is kind of on hold at the moment. We don't really feel it is okay to even go out and measure. Some counties are measuring on the outside and just not walking through the inside. We aren't sure how folks are gonna take that, so we're just kind of stepping back, maybe later this summer, because we know we're gonna have to go out and do building permits. So I mean, that's something we're gonna have to do, but we'll kind of play that by ear. We just had our new pictometry flyover. It was finished like the last week of April. I don't know if anybody saw the airplanes out. That was kind of cool. So we're hoping to get those. We can already see a little bit of it, but hoping to get the full images within the next couple months. And then the appraisers will actually be going back through all of the reappraisals that we have done and match up the imagery and make sure there's nothing we're missing, like buildings or decks or things like that. Just make sure everything kind of matches. So that way they'll still have stuff. And of course, we have all the stuff that we put on the back burner that the appraisals will be able to do this summer. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise a little bit. I'd rather do the reappraisal, but we still have plenty of work for them to do. Boards are now done. We did have a gentleman appeal to OHE. However, he didn't appeal to local board on time or county board. So the state's attorney is helping me with writing letters to OHE to try and get that dropped. So she emailed that out yesterday. So I'm hoping that we'll go there, but the deadline for OHE is actually Friday. And then other than that, we're just getting sales and splits and new plats and stuff done the first 6 months. Well, as of November 1st through April, all the sales are due to the Department of Revenue by the end of May. So.
All right, very good.
I just want to say kudos to you and your staff. Boards, I think, went pretty well
I
this
hope
year.
so.
Everything went pretty smooth, and I think everybody got an equal hearing. So I
Yeah.
appreciate the work that your staff did on that.
Thank you. That's all I got.
Anyone else have anything?
No,
Myron, did
good
you have
report.
any comments you wanted to question?
No, I just echo what, I don't know who said, Troy, just, they did a good job. Thank you for all the work that you do in prepping for that event.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Super.
Shauna. And thank you for helping Cindy out with her.
They're busy.
Yeah, thank you much. All right, item number 7, action to approve the auditor's account with the treasurer and note the register of deeds fees.
This is the cash and cash items that were on hand as of the last day of April 2020. You can see our cash flow is up considerably because it was the end of the first half of the property tax deadline. And although they did not have all of the mail processed, so the month of May will also look big too. Anybody whose mail had been received by the treasurer's office was processed. If they couldn't get it all done by April 30th, it will be processed in May, and no interest will be added if they paid on time. So anyway, and on the second page, it shows you where our balances are in our cash funds. We'll show you, we have 8.5 million to pay out to the schools, 125,000 to pay out to the townships, and just over 2 million to pay out to the cities and towns for the first half of the property tax collection. And there should be a fairly decent sized payment after May collections are processed also.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Van Duzen, second by Waterman. Any further discussion on that? Questions?
Oh, and the register of deeds fees, I'm sorry, we're supposed to note those too. They were $35,577 in the month of April, but that does not affect your motion.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask for that later since they jumped in with the motion. No other comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item number 8, action to open bids for the Willow Creek Bank Stabilization Project. And Rick will have the honors of doing that.
So you'd
Good morning,
need the bidder and the bidder's location in addition to the other items we need.
First one is Jeff Argo Excavating.
Out of Watertown.
Yes. And there is a check for the bond. It looks like the total is $108,000.
Brenda, do you want to maybe just pause here for just a minute and explain to everybody what this is for? It's for the Willow Creek Bank Stabilization Project. Can you
Yeah.
explain that?
Rick has been talking about this. It's on County Road. Which one is that, Rick? It's out
75 east of town.
east of town. It goes around there. This has been something that's been going on for a couple of years. And we just need to correct that so that the erosion doesn't eat into our road over there.
So
Yeah.
everybody knows where it's at. So that's
Yeah,
the issue.
The Willow Creek has washed into the right of way, and we need to correct that. Second bidder is J and J Earthworks out of Millbank. And there is a bond. And their bid is $94,312.05.
Both of those, Rick, include all the materials, start to finish, completed project.
Yes. Third one is Deutsch Excavating from Watertown. And there is a bid bond. And their total is $78,887.60. And last is Rounds Construction from Brookings, I do believe, yes. And there is a bid bond. And their bid is $109,182.65. And I think that's all we have for bids right now, so
All right,
I will need to go to Clark Engineering and have them crunch the numbers on these.
Okay.
And I will be back next week.
okay. Put it on, we'll make the determination next week.
Yes.
Chair, I do have one question for Rick. This is
Yes,
Myron.
go ahead, Myron.
Okay.
Rick, now, I don't have my budget with me here at home. Is this a budget? Did we get money in the budget this year for this project? I think we
Yes.
did.
Yes, this is a budgeted item, Myron.
And my memory is correct, most of these do fall within that budget. Yeah, I mean, as far as the amount, I don't remember what you budgeted, and you don't need to probably tell us right now, but I think we're okay there, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, okay, good, thank you. That's what I wanted.
It was nice to see that we have several of them to, to go through and
Yes.
determine. So that was good that we ended up with that many. We good to get that fixed. How about west of town? How are we coming on some of those roads, working with FEMA?
We're still working with FEMA on last year's stuff,
Mhm.
and hopefully some of that is coming to an end. It should be, some of them should be buttoning up. Other ones are still open. So, and they're hauling dirt today to build something up was underwater this spring. So,
All right. Sounds good.
thank you.
Thanks, Rick. All right, then let's move on to item number 9, action on a request.
I wonder if we should take action to award a bid. Let's do that. Take action to award a bid on May 19th.
Okay.
So moved.
There's a motion by Johnson. Do
I'll
I have a
second.
second? Second by Gable. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries also. All right, thanks.
Mhm.
Item number 9, action on a request to install blinds in the Veterans Service Office. Have our Veterans Service Officer, Todd Rose, here this morning. So if you'd like to explain to us what you'd like to do.
Good morning. Basically, there's 3 windows, tall windows, probably 6 foot tall on the east side of the building there. There was blinds there at one time, but there's not anymore. We would like to get the blinds put back in there. I got a bid from Floors and More for $445. It's a 2-inch blind, fake wood blinds, in a quantity of 3 installed is the $445.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion? Do we have a second on that?
Second.
I'll second that.
Second by Waterman. Any further discussion?
Just so people know, normally, because this is, Todd's office is in rented property, that's why we're doing it, even though it's under the $2,000. So that just in case people have questions.
Yeah, and I wonder where they went, because I remember at the beginning, those blinds were in her windows.
Yeah,
She had
the brackets are still there,
Yeah.
but no blind.
Wonder if Al knows where they're at.
I can reach out to Al.
I was almost sure there was blinds in there. Ask Peg though,
Okay.
but
It just seemed odd that they'd all wear out at the same time.
I know that there was blinds hanging there.
Is it on the south side?
No, it's on the east side
Yeah,
that
on the
faces
east
from
side.
Get Back
Okay.
Morning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, if you want to do
Okay.
some investigation, but yeah, I almost remember when we first went in there that there was some hanging there, but anyway. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Thank you.
Could I chime in and ask the Veteran Service Officer to hang in there for 1 minute?
Sure, you wanted,
I like
Myron
that.
has a question for you.
Okay,
There's-
this Friday is Armed Forces Day, and my understanding is there'll be a flyover of several of the towns in South Dakota, including Watertown. And I just wanted to make certain that the veteran service officer was aware of that. So maybe if he wanted to put out a public announcement or something to let people know about this event. I think it's about 1:15 or 1:20 in the afternoon on Saturday. Is that right?
It's
Is it
between
on-
1:20 and 1:30. They're going to be flying over Prairie Lakes Hospital. They're going to hit 9 hospitals across the state of South Dakota, the bigger hospitals. And so if you're parked up on top of the hill by the hospital between 1:20 and 1:30, you should see them.
What organization?
It's going to be, it's the South Dakota Air National
Okay.
Guard. You're going to be,
Are they
they'll
going to
have
be flying
4.
Piper Cubs?
No, they're going to be flying their F-16
Very
Falcon
good.
jets. So it'll be a good display as they salute first responders.
Is this Friday or Saturday?
Saturday,
Okay, it said Friday. Okay.
I believe, I think. Let me double check.
Was that okay?
It's Saturday.
Saturday, yeah, Saturday.
Was that in the newspaper? I guess that's the first.
No, it's on the radio today, mykxlg.com. If you go there, it's on there.
Well,
Okay, very good. Yeah, I can push
Considering
something
the
out
shirt
to
he's
the,
wearing, it's funny he wasn't advised.
yeah, exactly. Funny they didn't let people know.
Yeah, it just came out yesterday, so.
okay.
I just wanted you to have the opportunity to toot your horn.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, well. Item number 10, action to approve a Boys and Girls Club JDAI grant application. Who is
Yeah.
going to do the explanation on that?
Yeah, I think we have Louis Canfield, Annie Broken Leg, and a few other people. I think Brooke probably online to talk about this from the Boys and Girls Club. So can you go ahead, Louis? I'll stop sharing my screen if you want to share anything. And then
Thank you.
see if I can figure out how to do this.
Share here real quick.
If it doesn't work, then just talk us through it.
Yeah, I'll just try to. Yeah, it's not going to let me, it looks like.
Let me see if I can. Okay. How do I stop my share? I'll keep working on it. You just.
Yeah, okay. Just real
explaining
quickly,
the process.
I just first of all thank this group for all of your support. You know, about a year ago, we asked for permission from the commissioners to apply for a Department of Corrections grant, which is a 3-year grant. We were approved, and it's allowed us to really focus on diversion programming here in Codington County. Some of the data I was going to show you, and I may if I get a chance to share, but we've seen a great increase in cases that are being sent here to the Boys and Girls Club through Brooke's office. Since she started in August, we've seen 87 cases, which is significantly higher than any year we've had prior when we were just running our teen court program. Of those 87 cases, 33 of them are still current. They're trying to wrap up and finalize, and obviously cases are still adding as kids are reoffending or offending. Just to give you a little snapshot, in previous years, you know, if we saw 20 cases, that was you know, a decent year. So significantly more cases. Kids are not reoffending. Only one at this point has reoffended from our last look back. 4 have failed.
Louis, excuse me for interrupting. Try sharing now, because I got my
Yeah,
sharing paused, but I don't know why. He had some cool
it
graphs.
says I can't while someone else is sharing.
I guess that's me. I can't figure out how to, for some reason, the controls at the top, and I cannot get the thing to stop. So, sorry.
Well, just rest assured, it's going to show that we're seeing a lot more cases than last year, and we have, and they're not reoffending. I mean, I can't unless I know Annie's on the line as well if she wants to jump in with anything as well. But I know there's a couple other points that we wanted to point out that we're very pleased about. That's the fact that we've started a pre-arrest diversion process and also a conditional release process. So Annie or Brooke, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, Louis, this is Annie Broken Leg.
Oh, hey,
Sure.
Hey.
And Annie also.
can you, one thing I forgot to have you do, Louis, just if you could introduce who you are and then Annie Broken, like just for because we're streaming this right now and it's so it'll be recorded. So if you could just say what your titles are.
Yeah, my name is Louis Canfield, Director of Operations with the Boys and Girls Club. And beside me is
Brooke Reedburn, the JDI Teen Court and Youth Diversion Coordinator.
And then we also have Annie Broken Leg on, who's the state JDAI coordinator as well. So.
Yes. I was just going to add that, Louis, those are astounding numbers. I know that, Brooke, you've done a fabulous job in your role. That I believe you started in August, so it hasn't even been a year. So to see that increase in diversion numbers, that is going to mean more money back to Codington County through the JJRI reimbursement fund through the state. And in addition, Louis was talking about a conditional release process that Brooke, through the sheriff's office and with the support of Judge Means, you've been able to create this conditional release process, which means a decrease in your youth detention population in Codington County. So you've seen a 58% decrease in the youth held in detention since 2017. So those are all really, really good numbers. And especially when we're talking about youth outcomes. So I would just, sitting back from the state, just really, really fantastic work being done in Codington County.
So we are at a point now where, again, this is a 3-year grant. We're just wrapping up the first year. Obviously, we write this grant through the commission's office. We do the writing, but we have to get approval and support from this group. So our request today is to ask permission to reapply. We started the application process. It's going to be very similar to the previous year, to the tune of around $64,000 is the grant application. And it is due on June 1st. Of course, we will get you a draft of our final grant prior to submission. But that is our request today.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right.
I would second that.
A motion by Van Duzen, second by Waterman. Any other discussion?
We also need to, there's a draft of a letter of support on your desks that maybe what you want to amend your motion to and authorize the chair to sign a letter of support.
Yeah, I can amend that.
I have
Letter
a
of
question.
support, it's fine.
I'm getting copies of your grant applications for to draw down the dollars, but I'm never getting anything that shows me that you received any funding. Could I get copies of something for my files?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. It just occurred to me just now, so it's just an oversight on my part for not asking for it before.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we should be able to forward on any emails of funding. We'll get those to you right away.
Okay.
And so that people know what this is for. So basically what this grant enables us to do is well, it enables the Boys and Girls Club to bring on board a coordinator called the diversion coordinator. So, and then she's able to get, youth that need to be either diverted or as an alternative to detention involved in different things. And those numbers that Louis and Annie were talking about are, I think, in great part due to that, the positive, the good numbers that we heard from Louis and Andy are in great part due to the fact that we've been able to do this for a year. And so, and if people are wondering, Brooke is the coordinator that was brought on board.
So my motion is to go ahead and approve the Boys and Girls Club JDAI grant application
And
to
authorize.
include
Yep.
the authorization for the chairman to sign the letter that goes along with that to the Department of Corrections.
And I would second that motion.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion or comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item number 11, action to.
Thanks,
approve-
guys. Sorry about the screen
Yeah,
sharing.
yeah. Thanks for joining us and thanks for all the good work that you've done. It's proven itself to be a great benefit to our community. So thanks for everything that you're doing.
Yeah, same. Thanks for the support, everybody. Take care.
You too, thanks. All right, item number 11, that would be Steve, probably action to approve a West Nile grant application.
Good morning, everybody. Here in the past, probably a little over a week, we received from the Department of Health for application for the West Nile virus protection. This grant I've been applying for the last several years. I'm looking at probably redoing the amount again at $5,000 for application for this grant. This,
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Johnson, second by Waterman. Further discussion.
I can add, and so that this grant usually helps contribute to a little bit of the of chemical cost of also for assisting for collection of the mosquitoes for time frame of doing the mosquito counts and so that for each week. So that usually I keep a log and so that on file and so that for this grant. So if we're audited, that everything is in shape for the audits.
And this entails like the traps in the smaller communities and around by Memorial Park.
That is correct. Memorial Park, actually, the city take care of Memorial Park trap. Mine is in the outer communities in the county.
All right, and this is, yeah, typically, I was with Steve once when he had to check a trap, and that's quite the thing, and counting all those mosquitoes is another thing. So anyway, we want to make a motion to approve him applying for this grant. Oh, we got the motion in a second. I'll take that back. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. That motion carries. Yours is number 12 also, action to approve a temporary full-time employee for the maintenance department.
This one here, I'm gonna have to postpone a week. Terry had just got information this morning so that from our local temp service and so that for it, and we need to go through that application form and get all the jits out of it all. So
Okay, so we'll just move it to next
move it
week.
to next week.
Sounds good. We don't need to take any action on that. We just move it, right, Cindy? Okay. Item number 13. I don't know if you want to
Steve, you might have,
stay in.
yeah, this is, you have a couple of things.
Yeah.
You're the one that took the request for drug court graduation, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now I forgot to bring the form. They would like to have drug court. I did forward it to that whole thing. I thought the letter, didn't I?
No.
Oh,
I know what day. I
like
got the
June
date.
4th, I believe. Want to hold a drug court graduation on the west side of the courthouse is what the request is.
I'll make the motion to approve that request.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second to that?
Oh, second.
All right, any other discussion? So yes, it is on,
Is it to observe
Yeah, I believe this, yes.
guidelines?
CDC
Okay.
guidelines.
Oh,
maybe Becky would, yeah, she's
Becky
on.
probably
the-
has
I'm on the drug court
Yep.
team. Yes, we don't feel that we can safely hold the graduation within the walls of the courthouse, but we still want to honor our graduates, allow them to have their family, those people come. So that's why we wanted to do it outside.
do we have a rain date?
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right,
It is on June 5th.
So that's why.
the 5th or the 4th?
It's June 5th. is
Yeah.
what-
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
usually a Friday. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
so.
Well, do I need to amend a motion for a rain date
No.
to just say that it's a blanket? Go ahead.
Just a motion to
Okay.
allow them to do it is fine.
All right.
All right, we had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Well, we can move down to 16, I guess, once we have Steve here. We might as well just keep get all his things taken care of. So item number 16, action to revise the down payment policy at Memorial Park Campground.
Lee, can you pull that up?
1 second,
Okay.
Chair. I will do that. Campground. I think this is the right one. No, that's not the right one.
We'll put it out for sure next week.
Yeah, I mean, this is more like COVID-19.
1 second, okay.
Okay.
Hold on a second. I can see what I need to do. I'll find it in here somewhere. Okay, why is not one showing up? Sharing is giving me a hard time today. Hold on a second. Apologize.
You got to save it in a Word document
Oh,
then, or not?
okay, here we go. No, I see what I did wrong. It's, they changed the share a little bit on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Well, what I am coming to is the way that is, it's in black is what the original policy was, and it held basically 10% down for a booking of a group rate. We've had a little bit of problems with some of the group stuff. They are having sometimes hard time getting collected right away from all that. I am requesting to remove that, but we do have a seasonal a rates that's out there. And one of the things that has been done is some of the rates of the seasonals have been just a 10% down. Some has not been no pay. There was nothing in a policy on that. It was more or less handled by managers in the past. What I would like to revise is put a seasonal reservation with a minimum of 1 month, take out the 10% for the group discounts. And then when they do, this will hold their spot till they arrive for the booking date. At that time, they would be required a full monthly prepayment for each month. And then in case no arrival or prior cancellation, no refund issued. And then reservations can be made directly to the campground manager. This service is not provided online. Reservations can be made up to 1 year in advance in person or by phone at the campground office from April 1st through September 30th. No reservations will be accepted from October 1st through March 31st. There is online reservations that is available up to 90 days in advance with May 1st as campground opening date. And then I believe I had done I needed to revise the bottom section that had no reservations will be accepted October 1st through February 1st. It was kind of confusing because you would think that then you'd be able to call into the office. So that's why I put it up in the spot from October to March 31st, and then put the opening date of May 1st for online reservations. One of the thoughts of the 10% down deal was, I know whenever you have to book something, if you go for an event anywhere, or if you would go to Sturgis to the bike rally, if you wanted to book for your events, you basically had to pay for it in full. That's what I'm trying to alleviate for being able to collect from individuals out there all the time. It's really tough.
Does anyone would like to make a motion on this new policy?
We've discussed this a little bit, and it only simplifies it, and you get your money up front, and it's less work for the park people to do. It's less paperwork, bookwork, and I would make that a motion.
All right.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Waterman, second by Gable. Any other discussion? Steve had talked to me as well, and it just seems like it will simplify the process.
The one thing I should probably add for the seasonal deal out at the park and split, in the past, there's been a limit of only 13 individuals that can do a seasonal, because they get tons and tons of call for people that want to do seasonal out there. I mean, there's a waiting list. And if you open it up to all seasonal, half the park would be full of seasonals and wouldn't have enjoyment for families and so they had to be able to enjoy a weekend. I should put on there, we're probably going to add it to 15, and I'll probably put in parentheses a limit of 15 seasonals also on that.
Right. That allows families the opportunity that can only come out on the weekend.
Correct.
Otherwise, if it's all filled up, then other ones don't get to
So this is
enjoy
more
that.
than just a change in the down payment policy, which is what I put on the agenda.
Mhm.
Yeah, because that's all I was told to put down was the
Yep,
down
and
payment.
Yeah.
This is
And I haven't
more,
received,
You might
this-
have.
I
to-
haven't received
Sorry,
this
no,
document. either.
I just typed it up and sorry, Cindy. I
Okay,
mean, it
all
just,
right.
So
could have to postpone it till
Can we
next week.
put the whole thing off 1 week till you got
Yep.
the whole document
Yep.
together so it's perfectly clear?
would
And-
would
that
you say
okay?
this would be more park operations, Cindy?
Well, and this campground operations, that was more for COVID type things, this
that's what I.
Right.
continuing item on here. So it really wasn't for this type of thing.
Okay.
This should be more specific of an agenda item.
Okay.
Yeah.
With,
All right.
with that, so bad for next week, I'm gonna relook and revisit the,
I mean, this is good
Chart,
for
yep,
discussion.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm also gonna turn around and revisit to look at the park charges. City Park
Okay,
had gone
yeah.
up quite a bit too.
Yeah, so if we're gonna, if we're
significantly.
gonna look at fees, it would be best to, let's do it all in one meeting
That's-
so that if we need to go back and look at something, it's right, it's all right there.
And the reason that we need to
Instead of
visit,
piecemeal.
yeah, the reason we need to visit about the fees now is for like this summer when people are making it in the year in advance. We gotta have
Correct.
the accurate fees, what we're gonna
So,
charge
yeah,
next
so
year.
we're charging
Okay.
them correctly amount for
Yeah,
next
So
year's
that's why we're
fees.
kind of a year ahead.
So, maybe withdraw
Somebody's
of
gonna
the
have to-
motion,
Yeah, withdraw their
I
motion.
withdraw my motion.
That's
Can
it.
we second that?
and this will be discussed on the 19th.
Yep.
We'll put
So-
this on next week's
Yep.
agenda.
Yeah.
And
so-
I'll edit for the 15, limit of 15.
Yep,
And
and
so
then
that,
also get us the fees.
Yep,
So that we
and
have
I'll
that
get
ahead
you the
of time.
fees ahead of time. Yep,
The current
Yep.
and then what you're.
Yeah.
Yep.
I will do that.
Then we can
So
all.
we're discussing basically fees,
Yep.
down payments and reservations.
Yep.
Is that right? Okay. When I look at your document, I'll be able to put it on the
Okay,
agenda accordingly. Okay, all right.
All right.
Thank you.
So, and you have no other new things COVID related for the campground, everything's, okay. All right, I think we're done with Steve. Is Todd Meyer Henry on?
No, so, and that's probably my fault for not, I just sent him a Zoom invite and with all the other stuff going on, I didn't do it before the meeting, so we might have to postpone that.
Okay, I just didn't know if he was waiting, so then we can still do, we'll do 14, then discussion, possible action to change welfare office hours. I guess I would just start it out. The reason that I said from 8 to 4 is just to keep it consistent with the rest of the courthouse. That's why I entertained that idea. I have talked to colleagues and 8 or 9 either time, I mean, for the benefit of our constituents. So
What-
that's where it was at.
Yeah, so what are the hours now? They're currently 9 to 5, is that correct? Or do we need to,
9 to 5.
9 to 5.
all right,
And I would encourage us just to keep them the way they are.
With our
Seems to
constituents and
be
our
working.
client.
Go ahead, Charm, I'm sorry.
With our constituents and the clientele that use that facility, I believe that 9 to 5 would be a much better, a little better hours of operation for them and their convenience.
Myron, you're the liaison to that. What do you think?
I'd concur with the 9 to 5 time frame as well.
All right, well, I guess if the rest of you feel that 9 to 5 is fine and nobody will make the motion to switch it, I guess that's where it's at.
I would make a motion to make it 9 to 5 if we need a motion.
I don't think
I
we
don't-
do.
we-
It
we're
is
not
9 to
changing it,
5.
Then we're okay. Yep.
So. All right, then,
I would
item
just
number,
note no action was taken to change the current operating hours.
oh,
Yeah.
Todd Meyer.
oh, he was able to join us now? Okay. All right. So, Good
Mr. Meyer
morning.
Henry, are you on?
So number 14 dies for lack of motion.
mhm.
Okay.
Mr. Meyer Henry, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're loud and clear. So thank you for joining. We're just coming up to the agenda items. Go ahead, Madam Chair.
Okay. We will, excuse me, discuss item number 15 then with Todd Meyer Henry, and a possible action regarding a request to use county as a conduit for 501c3 bonds for the Great Plains Lutheran High School. So I will let Mr. Meyer Henry explain, and good morning.
Good morning. The new world of coronavirus, this is kind of unique for me. I'd rather be up talking personally with everyone, but I guess this is the world we live in. Counties and cities in South Dakota have the authority to issue economic development bonds. And what those are private activity tax exempt bonds that the IRS allows certain entities to borrow money tax exempt. But in order to do that, the federal government required that the entity find a governmental entity to issue the bonds. And 501c3s are the most common in South Dakota that go find a city or a county to be the conduit to issue the bonds. And the county and the city are not responsible and actually statutorily cannot pledge or secure the bonds in any manner. It's solely a borrowing that is backed by the Great Plains Lutheran High School or the 501c3s. Now, originally, Great Plains Lutheran High School issued bonds to build their existing facility, and the city was the conduit originally. But there's something called bank qualified in tax exempt borrowing, where the lender, who's a bank, gets to deduct some of the interest expense they incur. They can borrow money and loan it to Great Plains and deduct their interest and have tax-free interest to them. And it's a benefit for the 501c3 entity. And so we originally went to the city to see if they could do it. And unfortunately, the limitation, which was set in 1986, says they can be bank qualified if the issuer, which would be the city or the county, have not issued more than $10 million of tax exempt debt. And the city, unfortunately, is thinking of refunding 2 of its existing issues so it can save money on outstanding debt of its own. And they're issuing probably about $40 million. So that threw them out as a potential issuer. So we thought we would ask the county if the county would be interested in being the issuer to basically be the face. Dakota Bank is already committed to buy the bonds, and they'd be the purchaser. So what the county would do is we would cause a notice to be published of a hearing. So we'd set a hearing date. The publication in the paper would have to be 7 days prior. We'd have a hearing. And if it's like all the hearings I've had in the past, just Great Plains Lutheran High School, myself, and people that support the project would show.
Hey, Todd, I think you muted yourself.
No.
Lisa, you dropped out there.
Todd, are you still there?
I see you. There you are. Here a little bit. You were talking about the public hearing.
Correct. Oh, did I?
Yeah, you muted or something. I don't know.
I just see that must have been a internet thing here. So the public hearing, published 7 days in advance, have the hearing. At the hearing, it's up to the discretion of the county commission whether they want to proceed or not. It allows the public to show up and be for or against. Historically, I've never had anyone against a 501c3. Usually it's pretty supported in the community. After the hearing, the county at their discretion would pass a resolution authorizing the bonds. And then the next step is to basically set a closing date. And how it works or looks is that the county issues bonds, then simultaneously lends the bond proceeds to the bank, or not, to the Great Plains Lutheran High School, and gives the county a note and a mortgage and a security agreement to secure the bonds. And then at the end, the county assigns it all to the bank. And how it has historically worked is then it's really truly a loan between the bank and Great Plains Lutheran High School. And the only responsibility that the county has, other than to make sure that they build their project, or at least drive by and make sure they're spending their proceeds, is that it is a just a line item or under a note in the audit that just is now a requirement in GASB to just say how many tax exempt bonds that they have outstanding under this conduit issue. And
Would
so
that
that's,
be
go ahead.
the count, whose audit? Would that be the counties? Under
Yeah,
the-
you know, under the count, like the legislative audit would just have you list that under one of the notes that you are an issuer, and here's what has been outstanding. And every year you just call and say, how much is outstanding on this bond? And that would be the number that goes in the audit. It's just a line item. And so that's really all that would occur for you to service or keep this up, is it's just a line item in the audit. And if you have good auditors, sometimes they just call for you and probably call the bank and ask.
Right, who is the person or that we would call to get that information?
We'd give you a list of figure out who the best person would be to have that number. I'm not sure it'd be the local loan office, but at Dakota Bank, it may be somebody in Aberdeen that tracks all of that. Well, I'd have to talk to Dakota Bank and figure out, but we would get that information. And I'm always here, have been for 33 years. You can always call me and I get it for you. Because when those things come up, they usually have my number and they call me and then I can track it down.
One question I had, Madam Chair.
Go
So, Todd, just a question. So if the $10 million number, that was the county or the city that would do this has to have, I'm sorry, can you say that again? What that?
Okay. So bank qualification is just kind of the federal government passed a law that said, you know, small issuers are anybody who issues less than 10 million a year. And we want to give them a little more of make their bonds look better and have local banks buy their bonds. And so what they did is they set a limit. A small issuer is a governmental entity that issues less than 10 million of tax exempt debt. So what we would ask the county is, does the county intend to issue tax exempt debt greater than 10 million in this calendar year? It's in the calendar year of issuance.
Okay.
So
that, go ahead.
So if you're looking at issuing or closing tax exempt more than 10 million, then we'll have to regroup again.
We're out.
Yeah. So how would this say if this issue is going on, then if say next year we have or say 2 years from now we have a major capital project from the county and we want to issue bonds for it, how does having done this on behalf of Great Plains affect the county's ability?
It actually does not. I've been tracking this. It was very curious because Minneapolis had a 501c3 that actually went into non-payment. And so I'm always asked, how does this type of bond affect the credit of the county? The rating agencies, the underwriters, everyone else does not view this as debt of the county. They understand that it's just basically a service that the county provides. And other than this calendar year for tax exempt, if the county issued under 10 and could do that bank qualified, other than that, it does not affect the county at all. So 2 years or next year, other than using up, if you issue this year, using up some of your bank qualification borrowing powers, that's the only thing it would do.
Todd, this is Commissioner Waterman. I have a question. Does this fall under something similar to the like-kind exchange when you sell a piece of property?
Don't. Like-kind exchange is different. This like-kind exchange is 1031 in the tax code, and usually what this falls under the same powers or IRS tax code as the county has. So if you issue your general obligation bonds or your capital outlay levy that you can issue those types of bonds, it's the same statutes. 103 of the tax code. It's where governmental entities can borrow tax exempt to build governmental facilities. The IRS gave under 141 501c3s the ability to borrow tax exempt to build facilities that lessen the burden on government, and this educational facility would be one.
This is the paperwork. This is more of a paperwork trailer.
Yeah, it's a lot of paperwork. I mean, everybody asks, why does it have to go through governmental entities? And I think this was the only, when the federal government passed this and wanted to give incentives, and there's additional ones, nursing homes, hospitals, nonprofit schools, that's one thing. But we also have private water, private sewer, manufacturing facilities. Those are other ones that could qualify and come under you, and you could issue under this private activity bond statute. And I think the federal government, the senators and House of Representatives, they wanted to have somebody as a watchdog to say, we just don't want these private entities out there doing whatever they want. We want to make sure that it is something that the communities approve of, and that it gives since we have a hearing, it gives the public an opportunity to show up and give comments on the project.
And excuse me for interrupting, but and the county's liability of these, if the Great Plains would not pay back this debt, what's the county's liability?
None. Actually, statutorily, you're prohibited by statute from incurring any liability with regard to these bonds. So other than if they didn't pay their bonds and Dakota Bank had to foreclose the mortgage, you would just be noticed as a party because your name's is in the action, but they would ask for no damages against you at all.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, this is Myron. I would make a motion to approve the request to use the county as a conduit for 501c3 bonds for Great Plains Lutheran High School.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? Commissioner Gable.
Yeah, Madam Chair, does our state's attorney have any comment on this? Does it?
I think as my understanding, just making sure that it's only for this calendar year, doesn't affect our ability to go out and get on later, future years for future county projects. So that was my concern.
Okay, and then does the auditor have any questions?
I have a question on who handles the notice of the public hearing, who creates the resolution, and what kind of timeline we're looking at, because we do have 2 legal newspapers that we have to publish in, and I have to have the information to them at a certain time in order to get in. One of those is a weekly paper.
Yep. So you and I would coordinate that. I'll draft all the documents. Excuse me. I'll draft all the notice, all the resolutions, all the closing papers, and coordinate with you when to get them in the papers. I can even send them to all the papers with a copy to you, and then we'll pay all of those they'll bill us directly for those notices.
Okay.
And then when you put it as part of the minutes, then you can also bill us for the resolution cost to the entity and to us. You can send it to me and I'll make sure you get paid that process. But I will call you and coordinate. First of all, we need to figure out, as we always do, back up. If we have 7 days, we have to have at least 7 days to the public before the hearing. We'll figure out, is it a Monday? Is it a Thursday afternoon? What's your deadline? And figure out when we can get in the weekly. And obviously the daily is not an issue.
And also, this building is currently closed to the public.
I assume we're gonna do a Zoom meeting then.
I guess
We would, yeah.
We'd have
But
to do
is
something.
there provision in the law for, yeah.
Actually there is, because
Okay.
I'm general counsel of the South Dakota Building Authority. So we've been looking at that. So if we do that, we just have to give everyone the ability to join the meeting telephonically, or this is even better than telephonically since we can see everyone. We'll put that in the notice itself. So I assume you guys have the same room every week?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we
Yeah,
do.
this is the same, yeah,
So we would place it in there in a time in which they could join and comment.
just a question on the process here. So if we take this motion, I mean, essentially this motion is to move forward with the process. And then would there still be other things we need to take action on, Todd, with the public hearing and everything, or?
It's all as if you guys will allow the auditor to set the date when we figure it out, and then just put it on the agenda 24 hours in advance, whenever it is. As long as we publish the notice and it's on the agenda 24 hours in advance, and then we have our hearing. This is the only action that you'd need since you've authorized to proceed with it. And then at that meeting, individuals who'd like to speak for or against will be there. You allow them in the hearing to speak. And then after all public comment has been made, somebody may make a motion to approve the bond issue. And then if you get a second, then discussion, then approve it or disapprove it or fail. And that's how it works.
So the big decision is to approve the bond issue. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Like a resolution.
Right. We just did one, we did it with
for
the
the
planning and zoning
for the
on the
ordinance,
plats.
yeah.
And so we had a public hearing.
Yeah.
We just opened and closed it.
Yeah. Okay. All righty.
Okay. Any other discussion? Questions, comments? Are we ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries as well. All right, thank you, Mr. Meyer Henry, and I guess work with Cindy going forward on this process. And
I will.
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
We have had some of these. Thanks, Becky, for being here also. Okay. We've had some of these before, and with the audits, we've been a pass through like with Boys and Girls Club, or is this totally
This is
separate?
totally different. Yeah,
Okay.
this is totally different.
Because I was
Yeah.
going to say with those
Yeah.
audits, they must have just did it. But
No,
okay.
this is a totally different type of thing. Yeah.
All right. Number 17, we do have some information on a phase for the COVID practices and procedures and a resolution. Lee, do you want to?
Yeah. So let me put that on the screen. Go to that one. There we go. Okay. So last week we talked about this back to new normal plan. And then we had a meeting with the department heads to get their input and thoughts and go over it with them. So just to review what this basically does, we want to get the courthouse open back up. So let's think about the things that would help us to do that. The courthouse and all the county facilities really. So essentially this is broken down into 3 phases, so phase 1, phase 2, and then what's called the new normal. So phase 1 is essentially, for the most part, what we're doing now. With the courthouse is closed, we pre-coordinated visits, like if somebody from a department needs to meet a member of the public at the south entrance, they'll go do that. They'll usually have a mask on to do that. So just taking all the precautions, and then the key thing is going ahead and ordering a lot of the stuff that we're going to need, such as plexiglass, personal protective equipment, signage to prepare to open the courthouse. So, and that's essentially phase 1, I think. Just taking a look there. So closing the courthouse, trying to follow all the guidelines of the CDC, getting ready to open the courthouse, basically it. And then the key thing there, the criteria in this draft, since we're already at this thing, the thing that triggered it was having positive cases of COVID-19 in Codington County. And that was basically the trigger anyway. And then moving to phase 2, that's basically opening up the courthouse and other facilities to the public with some limitations. So basically all the social distancing. So that's basically the The idea, you'd have the plexiglass in place. If you're interacting with with the public or customers, employees would wear masks. 6-foot tape lines at the service counters. People to stay spaced out when they're waiting at a service counter to maintain the social distancing. Let's see. We'd continue to use the streaming technology that we're using now for the meetings. But this one, the public could come to those meetings. They just they'd be welcome here, but we'd still want to practice social distancing. And yeah, by the way, the court information, that's just kind of courtesy information, just in coordination with the court. We don't really make the call on that, but we did include a portion here just to say what was going on, what would be going on with the court in those phases. So probably the key thing to focus on to talk about for phase 2, though, is what the criteria are. And I can just read them off. So in case people can't read them on the screen. But essentially, the number 1 criteria is the county has to be ready. So we have to have our equipment, our plexiglass, whatnot. And then they have the staff oriented and ready to go on any new procedures. So that's one of it. One thing. Then a downward trend in new cases, which that looks like we're kind of that way. At least we're level in Codington County. So new cases, I'd say for what we can tell, it seems to be a downward trend. And then one of the key one is no active cases among employees. As Commissioner Hanton has mentioned in the past, that in other counties where that's happened, that's caused a closure of a courthouse for 2 days and closure of a department for usually about 2 weeks. And so that leads to the last criterion, which having the primary election completed. And by the way, this is the draft, so we're discussing this among us commissioners. Is that the primary election is done, and the reason for that criterion is, say our director of equalization talked about kind of getting behind on our work, on our assessments because of this crisis. Well, it's going to be a pain, but they can go back and make that up. With an election, because you only have 1 day to do an election, that's the fear. So if say, we had something happen with the auditor's office, that office had to close down for 2 weeks at a particularly inconvenient time to get close to the election, or you had to close the courthouse down, that's the risk there. So then it becomes very difficult to have an election without your auditor's office. I mean, really difficult. And we can't call on another county's auditor's office to come and help us because they're doing their own elections.
We're all in the same boat.
Yeah. So this is one thing that you can't go back and make up the work. That's what that criterion is about. The other thing to keep in mind is that for the most part, I think everybody would rather have the courthouse open, public and employees, because it's a lot easier to deal with, to do the work you have to do. But we've made some good provision for people to do things by email, online, by mail, through the telephone. And it's a challenge, but I think things are basically getting done. So, and then going over to the new normal, or the 3rd phase on this plan, everything would be pretty much as it was, with just some social distancing measures in place, such as probably leave plexiglass over the counters, kind of like the sneeze guard at a salad bar. Just look to be, to practice good healthy distancing when you can. The virtual streaming is kind of a good thing to do anyway. At that point, it would be more for convenience than it would be for as a social distancing measure. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I did prepare a draft resolution to go with this that would, if we decided to do that, we would rescind the previous resolution, which was 2020-9, which that one had the actual wording to close the courthouse, and just simply similar to what the governor did with her new normal plan. She did an executive order and referred back to the new normal plan. And that new normal plan in the executive order says, expect that to be updated from time to time. So subsequent to this, as we have to make adjustments, and I would see mostly probably in some of the criteria, we might have an adjustment over the coming weeks. We could still do that and not have to redo our resolution. At least that's the idea. So that's basically the idea in a nutshell on this phasing.
All right.
Any thoughts?
With that, I guess I don't know if you would want to make a motion and we get a second, we can have
Yeah,
discussion
I'll
about this
make-
resolution.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt this draft of 2020 County Resolution 2020-10. I can, if you, well, I'll make that motion. I can go over the details. It's shorter than the previous ones.
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Got a second by Van Duzen. Now, we want to have some
Yeah, it might-
discussion or questions?
It might be just good to touch on the resolution itself again. So what the idea here is that we're not setting a date, we're setting criteria. I think we meet almost all the criteria for phase 2 except for the election. I mean, I think we're pretty close. I think that's as far as I can see, we meet all except for having the election. That's the key thing. We want to protect that. That's what that criterion is designed to do. As far as the resolution goes, that would kind of effectively enact the plan. It says that, well, I have to change the date to today, but so it would say that effective immediately, Codington County implements phase 1 of Codington County Back to New Normal plan dated May 12th, 2020, and then or later updated version of the plan. So,
And I guess,
go ahead.
sorry, Lee. didn't mean
No,
to
go
cut
ahead.
you
That's
off there.
basically it.
I like this. I like the phases, you know, as we've discussed, there's been a lot of work put into this. And I think that, like you said, I think we meet the criteria for phase 2 and we're starting to see county courthouses go to phase 2 across the state now. But your comments about the election does make me nervous because if we get into a situation that we can't get back out of, then it's too late at that point. So the election's what, 3 weeks away yet? So
Too soon. I have had, a lot of responses. I had sent out an email asking what other counties are doing, and a lot of these are following the state and going through May 31st, if not longer.
yeah, so
Yeah, we were hearing
I
that.
support that and I'll support this for now. It's we want to get it back open and we do want to get it opened up as quickly as possible. But on the flip side of that, we can't expose our workers to contracting COVID-19 and then have to deal with that during an election. So
My question is, and you brought up the election, which is primarily towards our rule of law, but are those same people that are working in the auditor's office and the treasurer's office, are they isolating at home? Or are they joining the crowds wherever they are? And if they are, they can catch it any place.
Yeah, no, I
And
mean,
so therefore, I would
tell
rather see
you-
us move to phase 2.
Yeah, I can tell you
You
that.
can't protect yourself. We're gonna have COVID virus 2 months from now. We're gonna have it 12 months from now. It's here to stay.
Yeah.
And we can have an outbreak a year from now.
Personally, I am not going anywhere unless it's the grocery store.
Well, then that's a personal choice.
And I can probably say the same for my employees because they have small children at home. So they are being very careful also in my office anyway.
And part of it is we don't have all of our safety materials in place yet, and the PPE and the hand sanitizers. We don't have all that stuff
And how
yet.
long is it going to take to do that?
Well, it's a work in progress right now with the
it's been an order.
plexiglass.
We're for the public. We're serving the public, and yet we're hiding behind walls.
well,
And we've got no active cases in the county.
Well, I will tell you that the people that I have waited on, I would say 75% of them are wearing masks when we have to meet them at the back door for anything. We are masked and gloved up too. So we have not had very many requests. And in fact, the reason for meeting a voter at the back door is to correct a problem that has occurred with their absentee ballot.
So I understand, I think, Charlie, your comments are, I agree with you, we're here to serve the public, and that's exactly this. These are just measures that enable us to preserve that capability and to minimize the risk to that capability. I mean, that's the idea. It is unfortunate, yeah, the social distancing and all that stuff is not the desired thing
I think what we need to do is we need to take this week by week. I don't want to slam the door and say that we're going to be closed until after the election. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that 2 days from now, we get the PPE equipment that we need to keep our staff safe, then we reevaluate that. I just,
And what steps were taken this past week to acquire that?
They did hang plexiglass in my office and the Register of Deeds that I'm aware of. I know there are markings on the floors out here now for the 6-foot social distancing. Those are two things that I can think of. The other thing, does maintenance currently have enough staff to keep our public restrooms sanitized?
And everything else, if you would open
And
up to the
everything else,
public.
those railings?
I was in a restaurant yesterday and the bathrooms were locked, so they're not allowing public access even in the restaurants.
Really?
Bathrooms. So
there's still some measures.
there's just a few things. We want to get it open as quickly as we can, but we don't want to put the cart before the horse and have everybody here get sick either, because then we have a big issue that we can't get back out of. And
we tried to take consideration of all this, doing this phase 1, 2, and 3, that, it doesn't mean forever, but we're just really trying to be cautious of and the integrity of our upcoming election, I guess. But yeah, week by week, I guess we just have to reevaluate it. And this resolution doesn't lock us in. I mean, it's something that can be flexible and updated. So
One question I had on the wording, Madam Chair, just
sure.
And this maybe Cindy can answer the question on. So it's toward the bottom of the first page. It says now therefore be resolved. And number 2, I have worded we implement phase 1 of the Codington County Back to Normal Plan dated May 12th. It says May 5th on this draft, but we changed to May 12th for today. Or later updated version of the plan. What I think maybe we should do is just take out the words phase 1, just implement the Codington Back to Normal Plan, and that way we can just constantly be updating the plan.
Right,
and then
we're not specific.
Yeah, just take motions to update the plan. And, as long as we're meeting the criteria, so, then we do that phase. That's kind of the idea.
Right. Yeah.
And
that would
Charlie,
lock us into that.
you mentioned we don't have any cases in Codington, and that's true. Day County has seen a big influx in cases, and they have cases that are not recovered yet. Roberts County has 14 active cases with, I believe, 8 or 9 that are not recovered. So although it's not in our yard, it's in our back, it's in the yard adjacent to ours. And that's what I'm
They're in our
worried
trade
about.
area.
So-
Yes, they are.
Well, and the other thing is we may have some in our community and we just don't know it. It depends on the testing supplies and how that's all being implemented as well. So, I mean, there could be very well some active cases. We just don't know about them.
Testing is okay, but I can test negative this morning and catch it this afternoon.
Right. That's what I mean. We could very well have.
Testing is just a tool for a possible hospitalization, which we have none.
I think we have a good control on this right now, and I would hate to rush into something and then have a problem right before the election. That's my big worry.
I'm sure Cindy's concern as well. So any other, Commissioner Johnson, did you have anything you wanted to comments you wanted to make?
No, I'm just listening, and I think there's a lot of good comments being made, and I agree that we want to get the courthouse open as soon as we possibly can. What does concern me is, and I just have to admit, I really hadn't given that much thought to the election, and we certainly need to make certain that our auditor's office is open and functioning on all 8 cylinders, and that's my take on this conversation. Good discussion though. Really appreciate it.
All right. So did you want to amend your motion then if we're going to make that change?
So resolution 20-10. So, and just cross out the words.
Well, we
phase.
don't need to amend your resolution. We're just
Or amend your
adopting.
motion,
I mean, yeah, we don't
Just
need to
adopt
amend
it.
your motion because we're still adopting 2020-10, which is a draft.
Okay.
So,
So you can just
yeah.
take that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so And just so people are aware that the draft is, I just changed, I had this prepared last week, but we decided not to adopt it at that time. So, so the plan will be dated May 12th, and we'll keep it on the website and keep, all the departments will have it, and then just implement the plan, not phase one of the plan. And then we stick to the criteria. So.
Right.
Right.
So I guess we have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Any other discussion? Are we ready to vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
We will leave that on the agenda item
Yes.
every week
Yep.
to readdress.
So we're
We'll
probably
leave
going to
this
be looking at this,
COVID-19
probably looking at this every week then, so.
Yep, absolutely. Item 19, action to approve claims for payment. Cindy has some of them highlighted.
Yeah. On the first page, there is a claim to EMC Insurance Companies, and that is our property carrier for property insurance. And it was discovered recently by the insurance carrier, because this building is a historic building, it would cost more to replace it than it would a newer facility. So an additional courthouse insurance of $59.80 is required. Premium is required, which is pretty minimal, actually, when you look at the overall premium. But that's the additional cost to get replacement insurance for a building that's on the historic register.
A question, Cindy.
Yeah.
Not that $59.80 is a ghastly amount. Is that yearly,
Yes.
semi-annually?
It's yearly. It's a year annual payment. Yep. There was not too much out of the ordinary this month. I had a couple of other things highlighted, I think. Historic preservation. Yeah, what page? Okay. Page 7. The historic preservation budget. That amount, well, actually, 8,000 of it is the amount that you budgeted for the Compesca Heritage Museum. The rest of those costs there, which would be $1,165, those will be covered under a grant that we sponsor for historic preservation, and we will be reimbursed by the State Historic Preservation Commission for those. I don't see anything else that really jumped out at me. So of the over $823,000 in claims, $496,621.85 goes to the state of South Dakota. The majority of that is for motor vehicle collections in the month of April. And the amount of county claims is $327,060.59.
All right, I look for a motion, a second to approve those claims.
Move to approve.
Motion by Gable,
Second.
second by Van Duzen. Any other comments, questions for Cindy?
And the vouchers are always available if you want to look at something, if you see something that you don't understand. And I think there was something on here that I didn't understand. I still don't understand. I mean, it's something that, I think it's under the county park.
Yeah, I think that's getting worked on. I talked to Steve.
No, what's a nifty nabber?
Oh, I thought it was something else.
It's only $19.99, but it's called a nifty nabber. I'm not sure what it is, but it's something the park. Is it that tool they use to pick stuff up? I don't know. It just jumped out at me. So if there's anything on there that you have a question on, the vouchers are available to be looked at.
Right. And I did talk to him.
And a
about
number of expenditures on this, these claims are also covered under the COVID grant that the detention center was awarded.
that. Very good. All right, we have motion and second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item number 20, action to approve automatic budget supplements.
Nothing for today.
Personnel changes, we had a couple of those.
The first one is Diane Merchant. She is the office coordinator and the director of equalization office, due an anniversary step increase to step 14, $22.43 an hour. Brent Solom is being promoted to sergeant sheriff in the sheriff's office. He'll go to step 9, $28.53 per hour. And Sean Mills is a correctional officer who's being promoted to corrections sergeant, step 9, $23.84 per hour.
All right. Do I have a motion and a second to approve those?
Move to approve.
Motion by Gable. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Lonergan. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Number 22, travel requests, probably none of those. Public notices, shouldn't have any of those. How about item number 24, any old business?
Madam Chair, this might be, it's kind of old new. I mentioned before the some of the IT needs for the courthouse. Right now, we're kind of under an ad hoc contract with Connecting Point. So I just had a discussion with, and I know a couple of other offices within a couple of the departments have had this discussion with Connecting Point about getting a managed services contract. As you know, this would maybe be a logical step. So we don't really have an IT guy on staff, but I think we kind of at the point that we need one. This is probably an alternative to hiring a person to do that, but just simply would be a way to contract for the services. So I asked him for a quote. So we'll see what it is, just for people to be aware of that. So, that's going on right now.
Right. And I've had discussions with other counties too, and they outsource that for IT. So very good. How about number 25, new business? Is there any new?
Just a note from the Treasurer's Office that the first half real estate and mobile home tax payments were due to the Treasurer's Office by April 30th. And the first half installments have not, if they're not paid yet, they are delinquent. So we just ask people to contact the County Treasurer's Office at 882-6285, 882-6285 for the payout amount through
And that other
May
number too.
31st, which is
882-5210.
5210.
Yep.
We have
And if
two.
you want to look up that information for yourself, you can go online to determine what your first half installment is going to be by going to the county's website at codington.org and then clicking on the link for the treasurer's page. You can click here to pay your property taxes online. Once you're at the GovTech services page, you can enter your property's record number and pull up the balance due for the first half, including your interest. So if you have any questions, you can get a hold of the treasurer's office and they can explain that to you as well. So
I would also mention, this is kind of open, but our treasurer, Carol, will be on the mayor's briefing this afternoon at 3:30, just to kind of give an update of what's going on in her office and procedures. So watch for that this afternoon. Any other new business? Anyone have anything for the open?
I do.
Okay.
It's Go Blue Week. This week honoring law enforcement, first responders on the front lines. Last week was Correction Officers Week. My wife Carol and I brought pizza and ice cream to the corrections officers at the jail, and they were supportive of that, and it's good to see them. And we would just like to take a few moments to thank those folks for doing everything that they're doing in our jail and keeping our inmates and everybody safe. Also on the frontline workers as well, our healthcare providers and everybody else. So thanks to them, and stay safe, everyone. And thanks for doing what you're doing.
Right. And I think there was another individual or whatever that recognized our correctional officers as well. That was on the Facebook page of the sheriff's office. So it's nice that they do get recognized for all of the hard work that they do. So
It's nice when they put everybody on there.
absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So anyway, do we have a reason to go into executive session?
There was an issue regarding a burial contract. Was that a reason for executive session?
I don't know at this point yet. Maybe there was some correspondence. We could maybe on personnel, not on the burial itself, but on personnel. But
I've been in communication with the welfare office in regards to that situation, so I'm pretty current on what's happening there.
Okay, thank you, Myron.
all right, I am as well. So we'll just kind of wait, I guess. I'll let Terry get a chance to check some of that out. So maybe next week. So we won't do that this week. So if there is no other reasons, then I guess I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Waterman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Folks, I'm
Thanks,
gonna,
everyone.
I'm gonna
Thanks,
end the
Myron.
meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, JT.